Editor Chris Uhlmann.
Josh Frydenberg, welcome.
Nice to be with you.
Now tell us about these tax cuts. When can people get them?
Well, there are two stages to the tax cut. The first stage is that in 13 weeks' time, when people put in their next tax return, they can get back up to $1,080, depending on their income. If you're earning between $48,000 and $90,000, you'll get the full benefit of that tax offset. And if you're earning between $90,000 and $126,000, or between under $48,000, you'll get a portion thereof.
What about really low income earners? What do they get out of this?
Well, low income earners are getting an increase in the low income tax offset, which will go from $445 to $700, and they'll get benefits. But for someone who's on $21,000 will get a $255 benefit when they put in their next tax return.
You've also talked about an energy payment that people can get, which goes to those who actually aren't on incomes. Did you think of extending that to people on New Start? They're not going to get anything at all?
Well, New Start does go up twice a year when it's indexed, but importantly, the majority of people on New Start move to another payment or move off New Start within 12 months. They hopefully go into work, and many have been doing that. Also, people on New Start get other payments as well. That might be a family tax benefit payment, might be a parenting payment, it might be some other form of payment as well. So it's different to the pension, for example.
Now, at the start of this, there's no real structural change. The structural change to the tax system comes by 2024. Did you not think of moving that forward? Well,
obviously it's a balancing exercise, because we want to deliver strong surpluses, which we've done tonight with $7.1 billion and $45 billion of surpluses over the forward estimates, and eventually eliminating Commonwealth debt. But also we wanted to return people's hard-earned money to them, because at the end of the day, it's not the government's money, it's their money. And we as Liberals and Nationals believe people should earn more and people should keep more of what they earn. So we had to get the balance right, but this structural change in 24-25 is very significant, because it's going to see the 32.5 cent tax bracket come down to 30 cents, and by then it will be covering everyone earning between $45,000 and $200,000.
Were you scared off doing that, because by the time you get to $200,000 under that system, someone would be getting an $11,000 tax break?
But as a proportion of the overall tax that they're paying, that's still less than somebody on a lower income. And so it's really important that as we've pointed out through this budget process, that someone on $200,000 pays 10 times as much tax as someone on $45,000. We want to incentivise people to work more, but we also want to reward their effort.
But you weren't scared off this by the fact that the Labor Party would say that's a tax break for the big end of town?
Well, we've created a very fairer and simpler system through this, and ultimately a stronger tax system.
Is the big threat in this, though, that you're getting temporary surpluses and you're going to bank very, very big debts?
Well, they're not temporary surpluses. At the end of the day, they're growing over time, and we are getting to over 1% of GDP midway through this decade. And importantly, we're going to eliminate Commonwealth net debt, and that will be a significant achievement, just like John Howard and Peter Costello.
But the economy is softening. You've seen there are some real risks to the economy, aren't there?
There's domestic and international. Internationally, we've seen in this budget growth forecasts reduce. We've seen China slow down to 6%. We've seen the US come down to below 3%. We've seen Europe come down to below 2% growth, and Japan below 1%. So Australia is performing pretty well relative to that cohort, and we just have to be prepared for the impact of slowdown globally. As well as domestically, the housing market has cooled in terms of new investment. It's exactly the wrong time, Chris, for Labor's housing taxes.
But you talked about dwelling investment being a problem, but then you did nothing to try and fix it yourself.
We're strengthening the economy. We're putting more money into people's pockets. We're giving small business a significant boost with expanding the instant asset write-off to $30,000 from $25,000, and increasing the number of small businesses that can apply for it by 22,000.
Do you think you've done enough in this budget to address the concerns of people in electorates like yours in Kooyong in Victoria who have real concerns about climate change? $3.5 billion towards your plan might seem very underdone.
Well, the key point is, where do you end up with your emissions reduction policies? And we will beat our targets, just as we beat our previous targets. And the emissions reduction fund that we've already in place has been very successful. It's contracted nearly 200 million tonnes of abatement at an average cost of around $12. That is very competitive by anyone's standard. We've also put in place new programs to boost energy efficiency by 40% by 2030.
Do you think you had
and Snowy 2.0, which we've committed through this budget, over $1 billion.
Do you think you need to do more, though, to boost your own credibility on climate change, given the way that the coalition's been perceived?
Well,
particularly in inner-city electorates like
Well, I know that our focus is on meeting our emissions reduction targets, but doing that in a responsible way. Labor's all about virtue signalling. You haven't heard anything from Bill Shorten about the cost of his policy, which actually means he won't be able to deliver it. What we have done is we've prepared a very measured, considered approach to this issue that reduces emissions but also doesn't hurt household budgets.
Small businesses are also getting a bit of a boost from this. Instant asset write-off goes from $25,000 to $30,000 and can be claimed from tonight, so an election must not be far away.
Well, this is an important measure. Over 350,000 small businesses have used it. And for example, if you're buying a van for your nursery business and it's $29,000, previously you couldn't write that off, or you would write it off over a number of years. You couldn't write it off all immediately. You now can, or if a food manufacturing company is buying a new oven or grill.
$100 billion into infrastructure over 10 years, though. Do you think that these numbers that move around all over the place, over 10 years, over 5 years, over 7 years, just use them to inflate the numbers?
I'd prefer to talk about the real projects rather than just the numbers, because one of them is Snowy 2.0. We're modernising the vision of Menzies and Chifley. Another is we've turning the sod on the second airport for Sydney, the airport for Western Sydney. That was 50 years of indecision we overcame. There's a whole series of projects in every state where we're investing your money, the taxpayers' money, putting it to work to create a brighter future.
And can you win an election on it?
Well, it's all about delivering for the Australian people. They know we're the party of lower taxes, more jobs, stronger economic growth and guaranteeing the essential services. This budget does that.
Josh Frydenberg, thank you.
Good to be with you.